Good. Yeah. I mean, we could have a prettier looking face on there, but we'll see what we got. All right, everybody, welcome to the Barn Burner Breakdown. I'm your host, Fred Sabelli. I got a very special guest here tonight. I'm very, very pumped to have him. He is a professional fighter. He's a former standout NCAA linebacker, my buddy Jamie Campbell.
Hey, Freddie, thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely, man. And we go back, man. I was a pimply-faced loser freshman in college when you were a senior. Dominating the gridiron, man.
Man, I remember.
Yep.
We had some good times.
We did have some good times. And, I asked you to come on the show for a couple of reasons. One, you have partaked in probably two of the, most brutal, gruesome, but awesome sports known to man, MMA and high-level football. I'm just curious, your transition from football to fighting, what made you make that jump?
Well, as you know, Freddie, we played at the time, Merrimack's Division I now, but at the time it was Division II. We played some scholarship teams and we had some guys that were on scholarship, but we're not making the pros coming out of New England football, basically. So, what are we when we graduate? 21, 22 years old? And when I was 21, 22, I was like, I'm not done doing something. Yeah. And the one thing you can do, and you don't need to be on a team or, you don't need anybody. I mean, you need good training partners. Don't let me say you can do it by yourself because there's no way you can do this by yourself. But other words, you're 22 years old. I'm not done. I want something hard. And, you can fight at 22 and make a transition to that. So that's basically what it was. What
was your first before that, did you do any martial arts before football or before college?
I did a little boxing in between football at Merrimack. Some of the summers there was a boxing gym the next town over from us, Wilmington. Yeah. And it was in Woburn, and I'd go a couple times a week. In the summer, in between when we were doing our stuff for football. So, yeah. So I got a taste of it, but it's not the same as, martial arts. But, boxing's a big part of it for sure. Your hands and your distance and stuff like that. So yeah, it helped for sure. And then I wrestled in high school as well.
Oh, so, great.
Yeah. So that.
Which to say is the best base you could really have for martial arts.
Honestly, there's no practice. I've been, growing up in New England, we played every sport, Yeah. So there's no harder practice than wrestling practice. I don't care what anyone tells you. MMA practice, sparring, whatever. You're in that wrestling room, it absolutely sucks. There's nothing fun about it. And if you think it's fun, then you're sicker than most.
You're a psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. Yeah. Now, coming out of college, so you finished up. How long did it take for you to make that decision to start fully immersing yourself in MMA?
Yeah, I think I was 26 when I had my first pro fight. But I was at the gym, learning, and because I knew I wasn't even way back then. Guys are so much more skilled today. They're black belts in jiu-jitsu. They're great boxers. They're great wrestlers. Back then, you're good at boxing and you had a good defense takedown. You were smashing everybody around here, Yeah. So I still had to learn. I fell in love with the Muay Thai, the kickboxing, because I'm actually, not a lot of people know this, but I'm a right-handed, but I'm left-footed, which is so weird. So, I had two power weapons on either side, most guys are right-footed, right-handed, so everything's coming from this side for the power, but I could switch, I couldn't switch, I could go lefty, righty, southpaw, conventional, but it's not as effective as like if I throw my right hand and then I throw my left foot. Like you have power coming from both sides. So I kind of like kept that in the back of my head. Like I should definitely learn how to kickbox, and then I started doing the Muay Thai and the elbows and the knees and stuff like that.
Yeah. And you train Muay Thai overseas too, right?
Yeah, I actually I went to Thailand. It was so long ago. I don't really remember what year it was, but I was still fighting, and so I went over there to train, and training with those guys, it's just like it's their way of life, you know. Like they're just from kids. So I was old. Like when I went over there, I was in my 20s, and they're like, "Oh, you're old. You're too old fighter," because they're fighting like professional, like 15 to like they'd retire at 25, and they'd have 100 fights, you know. So I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm doing this like it's like a hobbyist. These guys are like the real deal. I wouldn't want to fight any of those guys. But
I saw a cool documentary on either Netflix or Amazon or something like that where it was like you could get out of prison for winning Muay Thai fights.
Yeah, I saw the same one. It was, I mean, I guess it's legit, right?
Yeah.
But so that one guy that we were following throughout the show, like he ended up getting out of prison, right?
Yeah.
He was like the champion or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows what he did, but hey, if you're good at Muay Thai over there,
probably killed somebody.
It goes a long way.
I know. It's like, hey, if you could kill somebody, like,
if you're
let's
really
see you
good
fight.
at Muay Thai, you can really do anything you want over there.
Oh my gosh, I've never
ended
been
up getting the dogs from there.
Oh, okay.
So I got these really unique dogs. They're called Thai Ridgebacks. I mean, they're a pain in the ass. I don't recommend getting them because they're not good around here. They need a lot of exercise and they don't like other dogs. So
is that like a Rhodesian Ridgeback sort of?
It has like a ridge on its back, but they're more like, I don't know. I'd say more towards like pit bullish, I guess.
Okay.
Like really short haired, and like I have like they're called blue ones, but they're gray.
Yeah.
So they're really unique looking. Like you'd be like, well, I get it all the time. Like, what the hell? What kind of dogs are those? You know?
Yeah. My uncle, I work construction with my uncle like my whole life growing up, and he had a Rhodesian Ridgeback for like a yard dog, and the construction yard, and the thing was a psycho, man. His name was Prancer. He like just you couldn't control him. He wasn't even that big, but just like a maniac. I remember he would like flip out so bad, like he had a choke collar on, and I remember flipping out one time, and his front tooth got stuck in like the front, like the loop for the choke collar, and he's just running around choking us, but we couldn't settle him down to like get it off. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, a lot of anxiety with these kind of dogs. Anything that says Ridgeback, stay away from it.
Yeah.
Like,
you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? Stay away from the Ridgebacks.
Yeah. Get a golden retriever or something.
Yeah.
Much less stress.
So in Thailand, how long did you actually like train there?
Yeah, so the first time I went over there, I trained for like because you got to understand this. So from Thailand to here, and back then, I don't know if there's direct flights now, but there wasn't when I went over.
Yeah.
So I went to like Japan and then to Thailand. So it was like a 15-hour plane ride and then an 11-hour plane ride. So like you got to figure you got 1 day down just for the plane ride, another day down to get home for the plane ride, and then you got like 2 days. When you get there off the plane, you're a mess. It was like you're in like a dream. Like being on a plane for 24 hours is tough. I don't kid. Like, there's no way. Like you could be watching the best movie, but it's not gonna last 24 hours. You know.
Yeah.
So you got 4 days already. Say 5 days already that are just nullified, right?
Yeah.
So you got to go over there for. I mean, at a minimum, especially if you're there serious training, I think a month, because you're taking away 5 days already, you know.
Yep.
And to get familiar with like once you get to a camp, you have to, you know. It's like even here, like your training partners. Like if me and you started training right now, and I'm holding pads for you, we got to get used to each other, you know. Mm-hmm. So it takes a couple days to do that. Plus, you know, you're the outsider, so you don't want to be like smashing people and like being like not a good training partner. Like you kind of like got to work your way into getting with
you're like earning their trust a little bit.
Exactly.
And you're
something like that.
That's got to be, you know, a weird experience, like trying to gain trust but also trying not to like look weak and like show that like you know what you're doing. So it's got to be that fine line.
Like medium, the fine medium, I guess you could say.
And I've always heard that in like the Thais, like they do a lot of sparring, but it's a lot of like light sparring.
Yeah, it's like playful sparring. They would let like we call us foreigners, so like there was a lot of kids over there from like Britain and like like Europe. And so they would let us go at it. And you got to understand too, like they're a lot smaller than us. They're a lot more skilled, but like a kid 120 pounds kicks me with a body kick. It's not, it's going to hurt, but it's not the same as like a 170-pound kid hit me with a body kick. So they'd let like us foreigners kick the shit out of each other. But like you kind of like, they were so skilled, like they would just, you just felt like out of place. Like we're so slow compared to them. But it was a good experience. I wouldn't take it away. And then I went over there again when I started working for Dynamic Striking because I had like Sanchai, Sandan, like all these top guys from Yokao Gym, and I wasn't even going over to do what I do now. Like I'm basically Bernardo on BJJ, introducing the guys. I do the instructional with them or whatever. I was actually being the film guy because it was right during COVID, so the camera guy that was actually going to go over there was like, dude, I'm not going over there. Like he was telling my boss, he's like, I'm not going. Like this is crazy. I can't go. So I was like, I'll go.
Yeah.
Like a free trip to Thailand.
Why not?
I'm like, hell yeah. So I was supposed to be over there for like 2 weeks, right? I had like 4 guys to film, and like I got to train at Yoka, which is one of the prestigious gyms over there. Just like big name Thai guys that like are big in the Thai world. Like you pay like thousands of dollars to train with them, So I'm over there with them. I'm training every day. I'm filming in the morning, whatever. And one day I was filming. It was like my 5th day there. I was having a blast, just training, filming, getting like 5-star dinners for like 20 cents or whatever it is. And so I shut my phone off when I'm filming, obviously like that makes sense. And so I turned my phone on after we're done filming because I was like, there would be a training session right after we were done filming. And so I turned my phone on. I got like, say like 70 notifications, and like I'm not that popular.
Yeah.
Right? Like no one calls me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what the hell? So I listened to like the first voice message. It's a kid from work. This kid, Mike, and he's like, Jimmy, you got to get back home now.
Lockdowns.
Like, like the COVID was going on, and then so the next phone call I called Mike Zinga, our boss, and he's like, hey, I don't care what the plane costs. He's like, just go to the airport right now. He's like, because they're like locking down the country.
Yeah.
So luckily I got to like, I think it was Istanbul or something. I got a flight to there. So at least I wasn't in like Thailand anyways. Yeah. And then there was like one more flight out of there to Boston like the next day. So I was in the airport just as long as I was like in Thailand.
Yeah.
Got flying, layovers, all that. So then finally I get on the plane going to Boston. I'm like, holy crap, I can't believe I'm going home. Because I was like getting nervous. I thought I was going to be like stuck in like a different country and like have to call work somehow and work that out. Like I didn't even know what was going to happen. We're flying and I can see like, I'm kind of relaxed now. I'm like, oh, thank God, this is great.
The relief, you made it like on the plane.
Exactly. And then like the stewardess were kind of like coming back and forth. Like, they do that anyways, but it was like a weird vibe. And I'm just like, what? Like their faces and stuff. I'm like, something's going on. I'm like, is there like something like on the plane or like, I don't want to say the B word. Or but I'm panicking again. I'm like, what the hell? I can't catch a break. Someone died on the plane. I don't know if they had a heart attack or whatever. And so then, you can look at the map on your screen or whatever. I'm like, where are we? And we were like right near like Iceland, Greenland. I'm like, am I going to be stuck in friggin' Greenland?
Oh, yeah, because if they stop.
So I figured they would bring it down. But long story short, we got to Boston and like. Yeah.
It's like, hey, he's already dead. Put him in cargo. Let's keep going.
No, that's basically what they did. I think he's dead. So I think they just like, I don't know. It was like where I was in like coach, but it was like up at the front of the plane. So I don't know what happened, but
Oh my
I made
God.
it home. I'm here.
What an adventure.
Yeah,
you
so
know?
that was my second trip to Thailand. So that was it. That was during COVID.
Now you talked about dynamic striking.
Uh-huh.
So how did you start? First of all, like I love seeing like all your instructional videos and all your clips you put up. You work
Appreciate
with
it.
some of the like best of the best, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how did you get tied up with dynamic striking?
So what happened, like, in the summers when I would go to that gym in Woburn, I met a kid. His name's Mike Zinga. He's co-founder of Dynamic Striking, BJJ Fanatics. We just kind of hit it off. Like he actually was a sparring partner of the Quiet Man. What's his name? The heavyweight champion there. He's from like Chelsea. Oh Jesus. The Quiet Man.
Who fought the guy who fought Roy Jones Jr.?
Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Ruiz.
Johnny Ruiz.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he was a sparring partner for him. So
Nice.
and I'm kind of green, you know, like
Yeah.
I'm not really good or anything. So he kind of took me under his wing because I would just be blocking the punches with my face. Like
Yeah.
He's like, whoa. He's like Mike Zenga showed me how to parry punches. There you
Yeah.
go. So I met him there, and we kind of hit it off and just stayed friends. Like, I see him like, hey, what are you doing for the UFC and this and that. And I knew he was a really smart kid back then. This was before he had BJJ Fanatics and Dynamic Striking and Fanatics everything. He started. He already had like the betting websites like before they were popular.
Oh, yeah.
Like when we were younger, and he sold that like before like the government could
shut
catch
it
it
down.
or whatever. Yeah, so he made some money on that. So like and we were young. Like I was in college. He was a little older than me, so he was still in college. I'm like, this kid's a millionaire. He's just in college. I'm like, this is, and
Yeah.
he's like a humble, cool kid. So we just kind of hit it off and stayed in touch. Went and watched the UFCs once in a while together, and then one day he hit me up. He's like, hey, you know how I'm doing that BJJ thing with Bernardo, who's the other co-founder. He's the one you see on, he's basically me on BJJ. Like he'll take like John Danaher and be like, hey, I'm here with John. We're doing a film today on arm bars or whatever.
Which is sick. It's like, oh, it's just a casual video with John Danaher, like one of the best coaches ever. Like,
yeah, and I mean, Bernardo's kind of he's like a 5-time world champion too. So like he's like comfortable in front of all these celebrities, and so he's like, would you like to try doing it like what Bernardo does with the striking? And I was like, absolutely, just tell me when or whatever. Mm-hmm. So the first one we do, he's like, yeah, me, you, and Bernardo are gonna go down to California to do Anderson Silva.
Oh no!
And I'm like,
what?
So like I've never taken a class for like public speaking or like never had an interview or whatever. But luckily Bernardo was with me and he's already done like 1,000 of them. So I was just kind of like the uke. So Bernardo did all the talking. He introduced me, and then like Anderson Silva like did like his moves on me. So
was this at a point too? Because when Anderson first came on the scene, like his English wasn't really that great either. You know what I mean? Like that got better as he, was like high level champion. Like you'd hear him like his English improved. Like were you able to like communicate like pretty clearly back and forth?
Well, we thought that was going to be an issue, but his English was actually really good.
Yeah.
But Bernardo can speak Portuguese, so it would have been fine. But yeah, I thought. I mean, obviously he has that thick accent, but he can comprehend everything you say, and vice versa. So it worked out. So I kind of got like my little foot in the door with that, and then
just like with the great, like the biggest legend of when you consider like the greatest strikers in MMA, like I don't know, he's probably the best, all right, or at least in the top 3 greatest strikers ever.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah,
but like everybody's like, oh man, you got to meet. Like it's just like me and you sitting down.
Yeah,
like. You put these guys on this pedestal. And I was talking to Matt Brown about it today. Like, he's like, dude, they're all goofballs too. Like, they have the same problems we have. They have the same like kids get in trouble at school and whatever. Like everything's they're just really good at their craft and they're in the public eye. So that's.
I've run into like a similar thing doing comedy where I've gone to even like do a couple shows with some comedians that I've like kind of revered, or like was not nervous necessarily to meet them, but you see somebody that has this great success doing something, and at a level that you want to get to, or at least sort of maybe in a way like you kind of emulate them. And then same thing, like I've just like kind of shot it with them, and like they're cool, and like it's not weird, it's I don't know why we do that sometimes, but like I'm definitely guilty of it. Like somebody I'm like really envy, I meet them, and I'm like a little bit like turtled up, and then I start talking, I'm like, oh, this dude's just like me, like we're cool.
Exactly. And that's why I like to do like the promo. I mean, like sometimes they'll do it like in the middle, like, oh, we'll take a break and then we'll do the promo. I always like to do it at the end so I can kind of get like a rapport with the guy. Like, I don't want to be like, hey, Freddie, how you doing? Yeah, okay, I'm here with Freddie. He does the boxing and blah, blah, blah. Like, I want to get to know you a little bit so, like, we have, like, a good rapport together,
Yeah, that makes sense. That's actually a good tip, too.
Yeah.
So you go down, you meet Anderson Silva, you guys shoot your first instructional. Did you have a plan sort of set up as far as like, okay, we've got like these guys that we want to interview, or were you guys sort of just like shooting from the hip, just figuring it out as you went?
Honestly, when I first started, and I mean, I hate to admit this, hopefully my bosses don't see this, but I was like super like, okay, we have Anderson Silva next week. I would look up everything I could. I'd look up his stats. I'd look up who he lost to, who he beat, how he beat him. He has 3 knockouts from a head kick. He has 2 chokes. And like, I was crazy because I was nervous, So like, I wanted to make sure I had all the right stuff down there. So as you go, like say like Matt Brown, like really, I have like a really good rapport with him. Like I was with him today. Like I did the same thing with him.
Yeah.
But man, like once you get going and like say I was doing an interview, that's like was my biggest thing, like the interviews. I'd be like super nervous. I'm like, I don't want to screw this up. But if you write it all down, I mean, it's good to write like bullet points or whatever. But at the same time, like you don't want like exactly like well, for me, like some people can memorize the whole page. But if you screw like one little thing up, it's gonna screw you up, and then you're not gonna remember like the rest of the thing. So I just kind of go with like, okay, he's a Hall of Fame. He's got the most knockouts in UFC history. Today we did leg kicks, and if they don't like, I'll write down some notes too. Like, okay, he's famous for elbows.
Yeah.
And like, okay, what about when you elbowed
Diego Sanchez in another universe.
Like, I'll have like a couple of things just in case like the athlete runs out of stuff and it's not like at the time that we agreed on or what they thought they were going to get, just in case. But for the most part, these guys are professionals. They come in and they have their own notes and they have their own thing. I'm not going to tell Teddy Atlas how to hold pads. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'll have a lot of notes, but it's kind of like just in case. You know? And then, like I said, like if I'm not actually in the film, I'm just there. I will take notes and be like, hey, so like when I do the interview, like something that I picked out during the instructional, I can say like, oh, Teddy, I really enjoyed when you talked about the overhand right. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, or footwork, or whatever it is? But it's the notes are just in case.
Yeah.
Because most 90% of the guys have a whole curriculum.
Yeah.
So,
I'd imagine they know what like they're really good at, and that's probably what they want to show on film, right?
Because that's what people want to see too. Like, we're not gonna buy a swimming video from Henry Cejudo. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna buy you wrestling DVDs and your UFC DVDs. So
yeah. Dude, Matt Brown was one of my favorite fighters. The elbow to Diego Sanchez is amazing. It's so vicious. It's like just a brutal KO. I think, does he still have the knockout record? I know it was like him and Derek Lewis were like back and forth.
Yeah, so Derek just took it, but Matt said he's He's gonna start training in January for
Okay.
another fight. So yeah, they're like back and forth. So
Yeah.
one has him, but he has everything in the welterweight division: most finishes, most knockouts. So
Yeah.
but yeah, he's like we were talking about. He's just like one of the dudes.
Yeah.
Like he's not like on a pedestal or anything. Like I if he was staying another day, I would have brought. He would have came. It would have
Yeah.
been fun.
Just a cool dude.
Yeah.
He had a really long win streak in like the toughest division in the UFC too. He had like I want to say like a 7 or 8 fight win streak.
If you look at who he's fought, because the welterweight and the weight class below that, I mean that's like
The best.
death row.
Yeah.
Like no matter who you fight, not even the top 10. Like
Yeah.
it's gonna be a tough fight.
Yeah. Man. So you've had like these experiences with just like some of the best minds too. Teddy Atlas is an absolute legend. He's been around. I mean, he's really big in MMA now too. His podcast is amazing, and he gets like really good insight. And he's worked with some of the best. His coach Customato is like another legend, So when you interview these guys and knowing that they're coming from such like these great lineages, right? Like, does it ever make you kind of nervous at all? Like, still, like.
So I almost like Teddy's almost like a family member now. I've done so many videos with him. It's not like at first I was totally like nervous. I was like really really crazy about it, and I got my first interview with him, and I had the camera guy do it on my phone, and I actually somehow, like, I'm horrible on computers, phones, whatever. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, it didn't work and this and that. And I was doing Technique of the Week with Jake Manini down at Hard Knocks. And I'm like really good friends with him. Like we've trained since I got out of college. And so he's got the phone. He's like, you got it in slow-mo, you idiot. And he just hit that, and I'm like, oh my God, you saved me.
Yeah.
And that was like probably like 3-4 years ago, like my first one. I probably have 30 or 40 of them with him. So it's like we did like a whole series, probably like 20 films, and like the last UFC, Teddy came down and like, he called me up. I went and picked him up at his hotel. I did an interview.
O'Malley Sterling fight?
And we stay in touch. I talk to him all the time. Hopefully he has another instructional coming out. But he's not one of those ones like, he's just not trying to pump out content. He's like, I did everything I know in boxing, so I'm not going to do another one. But, he did a power punch one for MMA. But I think he's thinking of one, but if he thinks of one, he'll do it. If he doesn't, if it doesn't make sense,
he's like done enough. Right?
He's not gonna just do one just to throw it out there.
Yeah. That's cool. I respect the hell out of that too.
Yeah.
Now, your first fight, you're 26. I think I remember seeing, like, I forget if it was on Instagram or YouTube or something, highlights. It wasn't in a cage, right? It was in a ring? Was it in a roped off ring?
Yeah. It's
was it MMA rules?
Yeah. Yeah, but the first ones, because it wasn't at the Shriners. It was the first couple were in at the ballroom in Revere. So it wasn't a cage, it was a ring.
Yeah. I think I used to go to ECW wrestling at the ballroom in Revere.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's still there. That was
No, it's not. No, it's gone, I believe.
Because it was right near the track, right?
Yeah,
like
the Wonderland.
Yeah.
The doggies. I lost quite a bit of money there too. Like I used to go, when I was working construction, I worked under the table, so I'd get paid cash, and I'd go to Suffolk Downs or Wonderland and just absolutely like blow my mind. I was like, 23 or whatever, just an idiot. Like
now you don't even need it. We can bet on.
Yeah, I'll pull out my phone and lose my money that way.
Pickleball from here.
I know. Oh my gosh.
It's dangerous.
If anybody here has followed, if you see me post any bets on my Instagram page, bet against it, and there's a good chance you're gonna win. I'm like, yeah, you bet the house on it. Yeah. Oh my gosh. So you're 26, you're going out for your first fight. What is, like, you did sparring and training ahead of that. Walking out for your first fight, like, what does that feel like?
Man, it's hard to explain if you've never had it. Like, you know how. I mean, the best I can compare it to is probably like right before a kickoff.
Yeah.
You know that feeling you get, like, you haven't been hit yet, you haven't hit anybody yet. No,
but it's coming.
It's coming. Like, you can see. Oh, say you're receiving the kick.
Yeah.
Like the kids are coming. Here they come. They just kick the ball off. Here it comes. And then, like, it's kind of the same thing. It's just a longer process, and everybody's watching you. How, like, in football, like, you screwed up. Like,
yeah, maybe someone didn't see it.
Maybe Coach D didn't see that one.
Yeah.
But he did.
He did, yeah.
He's going to see
did.
it. But, like, your mom didn't see it, or your girlfriend didn't see it.
Or if they did, they'd be nice enough not to say that they did.
Exactly. Or they didn't know what the hell's going on, because football's kind of,
Yeah.
if you're not into it, it's a little complicated. But if you're going out for a fight, it's you, the other kid, the day, the time.
Yeah.
Like someone's going to try to murder you, basically.
Yeah.
So it's
like a controlled murdering.
Yes. So it's pretty nerve-wracking, but at the same time, it's, like, super exciting. There's no other feeling than walking out for that fight.
Do you have any pre-fight sort of rituals, or, like, say the day of a fight? Like, I remember, like, for football, I would do sort of, like, a similar routine. For some reason, I forget. I don't remember if it was Mountain Dew. Or so, I would drink, like, something like the same.
Jolt or something?
Yeah. Like, I would do something like just like a same routine every day. Did you ever sort of have, like, a set routine that you did before a fight?
Yeah. So basically, wake up, get a little something, like, light to eat, and walk the dogs. Like, I live near a wooded area, so it's kind of peaceful.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. I'll come home. Kind of like, I don't like being too comfortable, like sitting on the bed or something like that. So I'll sit on the floor, and I'll kind of, like, stretch out and stuff. But I'll always put on the Outlaw Josie Wales.
Ah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Great
that one
soundtrack, too.
That one always got me going. You got to have a good movie to watch, or a good song that you listen to before it. I kind of had, like, it's still on my phone. It's like sparring mix, workout mix. I usually put on the sparring mix, and
Excuse me. I found that, I mean, this is comedy. Like, nobody's, like, trying to kill me or anything like that, but I've been trying to do just, like, a set routine before I go up, especially if it's a bigger show and I know there's going to be a lot of people there. Mm-hmm. I try to, if I have a set that went really well, I usually record everything. Yeah. And I'll listen to a good set on the way to the show. And then even if I already have written out what I'm going to, like, my jokes, I'll write it out again. And then I usually get, like, a non-alcoholic beer and then just sit there, read it over. I just try to, like,
stay positive,
clear my mind.
Yeah.
Exactly. Stay positive. Because if you go up on stage and people feel like you're nervous or that you're not in a good mood or not in, like,
yeah, because all the eyes are on you.
Just staring at you.
Yeah, if you came to buy a car and I'm like, well, if you want a car, then you
get it if you want.
No, you gotta be like, hey, brother, I got a car for you.
Yeah,
I got the one. Like, you gotta. That's even different. Like, I can just have, like, I could be shitting my pants, but I could be like straight faced. I don't have to talk to anybody. You have to kind of keep my attention. Yeah, you do. When you're up there at comedy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Be smiling and you want to make people laugh, so you can't be. You got to be kind of.
Oh, dude, the worst is going up and just there's. I was actually saying this to we have a mutual friend, James, one of the guests a couple shows ago, and there's, like, two types of bombing when you're on stage. There's the bombing where nobody's paying attention to you. You can hear maybe the waitress or, like, the people serving food and stuff like that. And then there's the bombing where every single set of eyes in the place is staring at you and just waiting for you to, like, just finish what you're saying, and nothing's working. And it's maybe one of the worst feelings I've ever had in my life. Just people just staring at you and you're getting zero response whatsoever. It's just, Oh my God.
And you got to get through it, right?
And you just get through it.
Oh,
And then you get off stage and the other comics make fun of you and you're like, oh God.
oh my God. I don't know. I'd probably just run off the stage.
I've
Because
thought
that would
about
be
it.
too distracting. I wouldn't be able to keep my mindset like of trying to make a joke and be like, oh my God.
There's always the hope you can bring them back.
Yeah.
There's always that like, I guess like the puncher, like the nuclear option, right? Like the puncher's
like
chance.
Getting your ass kicked and you just do like a
Wing
spinning
something
elbow
out
and
there.
just boom.
Like we all have that one joke that we have that like sort of works
Yeah.
wherever, and just sometimes it's brutal. It's
I couldn't.
it stinks.
I couldn't do it.
Oh my gosh! Now, your last fight, you came out of retirement to
Yeah.
fight. So what was? How long exactly was your layoff?
It's like 10 years. or
Wow.
something.
Man.
Yeah. I was
So you
just
come back 10
kinda
years
bored.
out. What drove you to do that?
You know, I never stopped like training or whatever, and not that I was bored, but it just almost like you wanted to like test yourself. You know, like I train with like all these guys that I've met over the last years have been so kind and like always took me into their camp and always let me train with their guys and stuff. And you know, I just got the itch, you know, sparring with these like world class guys and stuff, and I'm like, I mean, if I'm not getting my teeth like buried down my throat, which he's probably going easy on me, but with like Matt Brown and like all the guys that fight ready with Henry Cejudo, I'm like, I'll smash someone on the local scene, you know?
Yeah.
So the guy Joe Cavallaro, who runs Combat FC, which is a really good promotion.
That's a great show. That's where I
great-
saw you
great
fight. I went to the other fight
Yeah.
too, and just the production is amazing too.
Yeah,
It's
and-
just really great.
Right, and it's got the UFC Fight Pass contract. So, and it was, you know, in Wilmington,
Yeah.
and I got time off from work. Like my union reps helped me. You know, I wasn't getting paid, but I got the leave of absence or whatever to train and stuff like
Yeah.
that. And you know, it was like everything, not like to do it made sense. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't anything like, oh well, I can't get the time off from work. Oh well, it's too far away. Oh, I don't have the right training partners. Like there was no excuse. You know,
Yeah.
everything like kind of went into place for it. So
Yeah. Stars aligned, and it was just the right thing.
I mean, the age didn't help, but
Yeah.
losing.
You look good though.
Yeah, for like 15 seconds and then.
Yeah, you smoked that dude. That was awesome. I mean,
No, I'm saying like
yeah.
like look good for about 15 seconds.
Oh, yeah,
and then,
yeah.
And then it goes away.
Oh, what is
It's
cutting
so
weight?
oh my god. It's
How much on say, you know, we'll say the most recent fight you had. Like how much weight did you have to cut?
so probably about 16 to 20 pounds, but first of all, when you're older it's harder.
Yeah.
You know, when I was 20, 23, like you could drop 10 pounds in a workout, but you know, the first 10 pounds isn't too bad. It's like that last 6 or last 7, especially when like you don't have much already, you know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't.
You're
I
not a
don't-
big guy.
Yeah,
You're
I'm not a big
you're
guy,
not carrying
so
around a lot.
I don't have like a lot of weight to lose. So, but like I said, there wasn't many guys to fight at 170, which would have been perfect because, you know, I was around like 175 or whatever. But there's a lot of 55 pounders, and Rick, the guy that works for Joe Cavallaro, he said, well, I can get a 55 pounder to come up to 60. Can you make 60? Stupid me. I'm like, yeah, I should have just said, well, can you do 65 or
Yeah.
something like that? But I was like, yeah, I can make 60. And it was, the last couple days is kind of brutal because you're just like, you're not even hungry anymore. You're just really like thirsty.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, trying to go to bed when you're thirsty or hungry, it sucks.
Yeah, right. There's nothing you can do. Like, you're not taking like sleeping pills at that point. Like your body wants to eat or your
you
body
just, like,
wants to
achy
drink,
and,
right?
yeah, I don't recommend losing a lot of weight. Try to
For the heck of it.
Yeah, don't do it.
What was the rehydration process like? Because I've heard that also that can screw up a lot of people because you're like, oh great, I made weight and now I start piling it back on. But do you have any like a certain way that you did that to not like overload yourself?
So I was so thirsty that I probably had close to a gallon like right away, and I ate. You eat a little bit, but you don't want to like overdo it.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to go to like Burger King and eat like fries and like
Yeah.
I like kept it pretty clean because I've been clean for so long that like you just have one more day till you fight, so just don't screw that up. So
Yeah.
I had like fish and some rice and some vegetables and stuff like that, and honestly, like you'll have a couple bites and your stomach's so small at that point, like you're already full, but you get hungry again quick. So just like small portions throughout the night, and like you're so tired and drained from making the weight and all the bullshit that goes with that I mean I go to bed fairly early, so then you wake up and you try to like I think I had some eggs and some protein or something like that, but I try not to eat before the fight. I don't like to eat too much, and then after the fight it's over.
Yeah, it's over, right?
You
Couple beers.
You basically
pizza.
eat till you get sick. I only had one beer because I had the one beer and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have like 10 beers in this. I ended up drinking like 3 ginger ales. I was like,
get the sugar.
I don't know. I wasn't feeling the beer.
Yeah. And like that'll fill you up too, especially like you're saying your stomach kind of shrinks a little bit. So you're drinking like a highly carbonated beer. I'm sure it's like doesn't feel great.
I sucked it down, but I was like, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh man. So you hydrate up, you're ready to go. You have your routine. You take care of the fight. You take care of business. That's just got to be like the best feeling in the world. Like you're in, you're out. Like that was a pretty swift victory. Did it feel like almost an extra accomplishment to it because you were able to put together all this extra training and all this other knowledge that all these like high level guys gave to you in that sort of like in between time?
Yeah, absolutely. And actually for the camp, it's hard to get unless you travel. Like I could go to Hard Knocks gym, which is in High Park, but that's kind of far for us. So I try to have guys come to my house because I have like a whole studio in my basement.
Yep.
And so a lot of the partners that came were more wrestle based. So like even at the end of the camp, I was like, I was talking to the team that I had, and I was like, guys, I don't know if I did enough sparring for this camp. Like, I feel like we were wrestling more than actual sparring. And it ended up I went to kick the kid, and he grabbed my leg right away. We ended up like a lot of wrestling moves. Like I had the underhook and whatever, but it all worked out, like you want like anything, like you want a little wrestling, striking, the jiu-jitsu, like you want to blend them all in, but you can do them all like separately, but it's always good to have a few sessions where it's all together.
Yeah.
It's just like at Cejudo's gym, like Fight Ready. So they'll like I'll be in the ring, the cage, and you'll have a different guy come in, and it's full rounds. Like jiu-jitsu, like an MMA fight.
Yeah.
And they implement the perfect scenario, like, so that's not even your first fight, like that's on Saturdays, and if you have a fight coming up, and then the coaches are there like grading you for each round. So like I noticed that, and I kind of took that home with me. I'm like, okay, we get a like first round you're in, second round you're in, and some guys were better at stand up, or some guys were better at wrestling, but like whatever they were better at, like I'm not gonna.
Now, are those guys coming in? Are they fresh coming in, or have they
Yeah.
also been doing like rounds outside of that?
No, they're fresh.
Okay, so that makes it even harder too.
No, it's rough. It is. Yeah.
And especially, well, like you're probably like, I don't know. Would you say you did like it's like a five rounds?
Yeah, but I think. Well, they would do 5 rounds.
Yeah,
because
okay.
it would usually be like Henry because he's doing a championship fight, right?
Yeah.
So I'd do 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But honestly, like you think like, oh, 3 5-minute rounds, that's nothing. Like that's your workout. Like that would be on Saturday, and then Sunday that would be like your rest day. Because it was brutal, especially a fresh guy, and they're your friends, but at the same time, like one of my friends, Phil. It's actually Jake Manini's brother, Phil Manini. He's a lot bigger than me, but he wouldn't go easy on me. I'd be like, this fucking asshole, like he was making me better, So I appreciated it, and you prepare for the worst, but you hope for the best, right?
Yeah.
So you suffer then where no one's watching, in the basement
for the glory
when you're crying and everybody's saying, "Come on, you got to keep going," and you just want to lay down, but then when everybody's watching, it usually turns out good if you put the work in.
Yeah. What was it like training? Like Henry Cejudo, UFC champion, 2 divisions, Olympic champion. That must have been a really good experience.
Oh, so how I met Henry, he came down to Boston, right? And Mike usually when we had high profile guys, he'd be like, "Hey, I got Henry coming in, he's coming in this day. Are you available? This and that." And I'm like, "Yeah, obviously I'm available. Yeah, I'll we set it all up and stuff like that." And I'm like, and this is before I knew Henry, right? He's a super nice guy. But if you look at his persona on the camera and
the king of cringe,
you're like, I'm like, oh man, I'm like, this is gonna be a fucking week. I'm like, this guy's an asshole, you know? So he comes down and we hit it off right away. He's like the nicest guy, right?
Yeah.
And we're talking, he's doing the film and this and that. And then I'm like, all right, Henry, can we do a promo and this and that? As soon as the camera goes on, he's like,
on.
Jesus Christ, Henry, how do you do that? Like, I'm probably not even supposed to say that on air, but super nice guy. Like, and then I told him, I was like, hey, Henry, I was thinking about doing another fight. He's like, come down to Arizona. He's like, you're welcome at Fight Ready and this and that. And I came down. I would train because he wasn't training at the time. This was before his comeback, so I would go train with his guys, all the guys that he his team, and then I'd go and basically he would give me a private lesson every night.
Wow. So
I'd train in the morning and then I'd go to his house at night, eat dinner and hang out at his pool and sometimes we would do like a quick little session and then we'd do like film work. He'd show me stuff, like super smart, super confident, and just knows the game like
locked
no
in.
other. Yeah. And it showed, like he puts in the work because I've been there during his training camps and like no one works harder than him.
Yeah.
So
you don't get to be an Olympic champion wrestler without being the hardest work and doing the room for sure.
Oh my God, yeah.
Is their camp, is that at high? Because I've been to different parts of Arizona, or some are at like a little bit higher altitude and some was a little bit lower. Is that a higher altitude location?
I mean, it's right outside of Phoenix, so I don't know like how the altitude.
I think
is.
Phoenix was like pretty low.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel much.
Yeah,
it didn't feel too weird. So
have you ever done any high altitude training or been in?
Yeah, so I went to the Rocky Mountains like a couple years ago, and like I stayed at like an Airbnb thing, but it was like on the top of a hill, right?
Yeah,
or like there was a mountain, but this was like a little hill, so I'm like, oh, I'll run to the bottom and then run back up the top.
Yeah.
And,
like
and then, like being like, MMA, like tough guy, whatever. I'm like, altitude, that's all in your fucking head, whatever. I'm running up and I'm like, I thought I was gonna have a heart attack, and
Yeah.
I wasn't even going at like a crazy clip or anything. Like it was real.
I went to one of my good buddies from home was getting married. Like his big thing, he wanted to go to Machu Picchu in Brazil. So me and him went for this like 6-day hike through like really high altitude in Peru, and it was maybe one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It took at least 2 days to start to feel kind of normal, and that was at the beginning of the trip, and then we had to go one more sort of like jump in elevation, and it was the most brutal thing I've ever. And it was just, I mean, hiking's hard, but it wasn't running. But like, it was like the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. I was not anticipating it, and they give you the cocoa leaves and stuff to chew on. And like, this did not help whatsoever.
Was that have like caffeine or like something to jolt you up a bit?
Yeah,
right?
it's what they make cocaine out of, but
nice.
it's not processed. So like, it gives you like a little bit of energy, and like they have it everywhere. Like if you go to a hotel in Peru, so we started out in Lima, which is at sea level, and then we went to I think Cusco or something like that, and that's where we sort of started. And I think it was around like a 75-mile hike. It was 4 days, and part of it was through the jungle, and then it was up through a mountain, and then back down the mountain. It was wild. It was really wild.
So did you train at all to do this, or you just?
I had been, I got like one of those Bane masks. So I'd be at the gym. Yeah. I'm like, I got the mask on. I'm doing the Stairmaster. I put in as hard a training as I could to feel like I was ready. Like I could have, say if we were around here, like I could have went up and down Mount Washington twice. I felt like in the same, that's how good a training I felt like I was in. And as soon as we hit the high elevation, it almost washed all of it out.
Yeah, like there's no training for it. You just got to do it. Right?
You got to really acclimate yourself. And we didn't do the best job acclimating. And we sort of followed what they recommended doing because we actually had a tour guide. It was in a group of maybe like 10 other people or something like that. It was cool because they had like donkeys that brought we had donkeys bringing all of our stuff with us. So we didn't even have to, I carried my bag with me because I just bought it. And I was like, oh, it's a cool hiking bag. But like you could have the donkeys carry your stuff. And I kind of wish I did because just any added weight, anything, it just zapped me. By like the last day, I felt okay.
Poor donkeys.
I know. Oh my God. Those donkeys did kind of save us, though. It was not. It was cool. It was a great experience, but just the high elevation was.
I might have to
brutal.
get the number, Freddie. It sounds like right up my alley.
Oh, it was really cool. And they made my buddy bought her. I don't even know the name of the company, but they like cooked for you every night, and we stayed either in like a tent or some like hillside like lodging place or whatever, but usually like every stop you went to, they had like little bowls of the cocoa leaves, so like, oh, chew, like kind of get you through it. And one part we were going through, there was a mudslide, so we had to go up this mountain. The top of the mountain was at 15,000 feet, and none of us were prepared to do this at all because we thought we were supposed to be going through the jungle. But we couldn't turn back because we're already like 35 miles into the hike. We couldn't go around because of all the mudslides, so we just had to go up and over. And it was, luckily they had these little Sherpas like right kind of at our base camp, so we were able to get some like wool gloves and hats and stuff. But I had a rain jacket and like an Under Armour shirt. I had packed very light, and it was brutal. But God. 15,000 feet. It was only like I think a 2 or 3,000 foot like incline for us because we were already at 11,000 feet. So once we got to the top, it almost felt like my eyeballs wanted to like pop out of my head. I was like, it was brutal. Oh my God, I'm so glad I did it. It was an amazing experience, but I would recommend doing it if you get a chance. If you know are there any Peruvian fighters in MMA right now? I don't know. Sure. You should book an instructional with somebody.
Yeah, and just film it down there.
Yeah. It was really cool.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I would love to do something like that.
So you train with Henry Cejudo for the fight. You come back here, kind of like doing back and forth training. So I'm sure you had a lot of confidence going into that, just based on that alone, right?
Yeah, but there's, I mean, Henry would probably disagree with me because he's just like so confident. But there's always in the back of your mind, oh man, did I do enough? You're too old. What the hell are you doing? Like your mind always plays tricks on you like that. But like you want those tricks to be played like weeks prior to going into it. You know, like that night, if you're still thinking about that, you're in trouble. You got to be like on. It's like you've already made the commitment. Your team made the commitment. That's my biggest thing. Like I don't want to let you guys all bought tickets. Everybody from Merrimack, all my boys came down. My family's in the stands. I just trained with these guys who gave me their time.
Yeah.
I don't want to let anyone down. So all that negative shit, you got to get that out of your head, and you're just locked in. Like I'm gonna smash this kid. He has no idea.
Yeah. I remember that you also that fight. They switched the time of your fight too, right?
Yeah, that was horrible.
Yeah, you were. We were getting ready. We were like, oh great, like Jamie's coming up, and then it was like, oh we're moving him up. We're moving him up. So like that must have played with your head a little bit, right? I mean, at least the other dude also was going through the same thing at that time, but
yeah. So you usually get the schedule or whatever at the weigh-in, so you see where you're at. So I saw like, oh, you're the fourth pro fight. I'm like, oh sweet. We'll be drinking beers by 8 o'clock, right? So that's what I thought. Up until I was literally walking, like if you're the next fight, you'd like, backstage they have you at a certain point. Okay, your name's this. Okay, check. Here he is. And they're like, oh, you got switched. And I'm like, what? Like, yeah, you're not fighting for like another 3 hours or something. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
And then, you can sit down and pout and stuff like that. But like you just said, Teddy Atlas said the same thing to me one day. He's like, hey, whatever you're going through, the same thing happened to your opponent. So don't like use your energy on, oh, this sucks or blah, blah, blah. Just take it in and just. So I just literally went. I tried to like. I came like from behind the curtain. I was like, hey, I got switched, and tried to tell as many people as I could.
Yeah.
And then I just went and sat and just
save your energy.
Yeah, I just sat there by myself. I was like, I'm not on for a while, so you guys can go, like my corner team. I'm like, you guys can go hang out with everybody and have fun. I'm like, I wish I had a blanket and a pillow.
Take a nap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you had a big crowd there though.
I think the promoter might have thought, like, you know what? I'm gonna get a lot of beer sales if I put this kid towards the end. Yeah.
Dude, that it is a great venue. The beer lines are crazy there though, because they only have it's like a 2 or 3 line thing. So it's literally going around the ring to get a beer. It was a really long line. I don't even know if I was really drinking that night. I get nervous if I see a UFC fighter fighting that I like. I'm like, oh yeah, like I get super nervous. When it's somebody I like know and have a relationship with, I was like sweating. I was so nervous. Not that I was nervous like, oh yeah, Jamie's like gonna get like not that kind of nervous, but like it's an unpredictable sport. Anything could happen at any given moment. And you don't want somebody you care about to get hurt, Right. Like, I know you're a beast, and I know you're an animal. I know you're going to do well, but there's always that, like, I don't know what's going to happen. So I get too nervous. I'm pretty sure I was, like, next to Rico. I was, like, holding on to somebody for a dear life. I was like, oh, my God. Like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
I'm such a baby about that stuff, man. Oh, I can't imagine being in there, but.
Yeah, especially like my sister, she brought her young boys.
Yeah, I
like,
saw them.
Hey, this is probably going to be the last time I ever do this. So, they're young. So, like, it looks like a big production, So I was like, why don't you bring them? And she's like, I don't know. I'm like, they'll never see this again. Like, this is the last. So I was like, oh, man. I'm walking out and they're like standing there and I, shaking their hand or whatever. I'm like, man, I can't get hurt because they'll like they won't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They'll be like nervous and stuff. So yeah, that was a little motivation too, I guess.
Do you do any training with your nephews?
Yeah, actually, the oldest one, Liam, I have him on the pads when I can. Like I work the 2 to 10 shift, so they're at school when I leave for work. They come home, so I usually see him on Mondays, Sundays, and Mondays. So once in a while, like kids like, oh, he's playing, he's playing football and basketball and stuff like that. So I have basketball practice in 2 hours, and I'm like, all right, well maybe tomorrow. I don't want to push them to do anything. If they want to do it, they can do it. If they don't, then
yeah. Sometimes when you push kids like too hard, they don't. Yeah, they don't want to do it.
Like, oh, it's time to train. That I don't want them to be like, oh, I don't want to train. I want to make it fun for them. But they do like hitting the pads. That's always the fun.
Yeah, it's fun. That's the funnest part.
Yeah,
right?
No one wants to do the line drills and the foot drills and hitting the bag. But when it comes to the pads, everybody loves doing the pads.
Yeah. My son's, he's like it's like a year and 4 months, year and 5 months or so, but I train jujitsu and I like always see like the kids' classes going. I like can't wait to I want to get him to do it. I just want him to feel like confident, and I want him to feel like he can defend himself and just like, have a good base, I want to start him young, but I also get nervous about like trying to force him to do something and him hate it because I made him do this thing where he'd rather be playing basketball or, ice skating or something like that.
Yeah. No, but I think every kid, I mean, I'm not saying like what age to start at, but, from like middle school to high school, you should have, I'm not saying like an all-out brawl or like a fist fight or whatever, but you should have some kind of conflict with another kid, whether you're doing wrestling for a year or jiu-jitsu or boxing or something. Just something, like you said, for like their confidence and like just knowing that like you can defend yourself. I feel like even my sister's kids are like kind of into that. Like sometimes they'd rather be inside just like on the computer for 5 hours. I'm like, go outside.
Yeah.
Go like jump around or something.
I know. I didn't have a computer until I didn't have a computer in my house at all growing up, but I didn't have my own computer until I went to college.
I didn't even have one in college.
Yeah.
But
when we went to college, like you almost didn't need one. Like I remember still being able to like handwrite papers and hand them in. Like it's different.
I think we had to type them.
I remember having class
and then you'd have to type them afterwards. But I would always I would still take notes in the classroom.
Yeah.
Like I'd have a notebook with my whatever rip-off book they made you buy.
What was your like go-to sport growing up?
Football.
Yeah.
Yeah, just always football.
I didn't start playing football until high school. I was like I would have been like with the older kids like at a young age, so I like never really fit into like the Pup Warner bracket.
Yeah.
So I played soccer, but I kind of hated it. I always loved baseball. Baseball I think was always my favorite sport growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
I hated baseball.
I loved it.
I just, unless you were pitching or catching or at bat, it was just too boring. Like it was too slow for me. I don't know. I'd always try to be the catcher, but I'd catch like 1 or 2 innings because the team that I was on, the coach's son was the catcher too. So I think that probably just like stirred me away from baseball. I was like, I'm good with baseball.
Like all of my friends also like, so, I grew up in Malden and, you had 3 different baseball like divisions and they all played at like I went to Linden School. And so all of my friends, even though we're maybe on different teams, like we all like hung out at the park anyway. So I just always felt like that's just where I always was, And like, so that's where all of my like best memories are, like playing baseball, like at that park, like getting into trouble, like doing stupid stuff,
I just remember like you said, like the baseball. So that reminded me of, so we had like a pretty good Pup Warner program in Wilmington. And, so like say you were on like the little kids team, the D team. So you'd play with all your friends, right?
Yeah.
And then like the C team, the B team, they would all have games. So wherever you were, like, you know, when we were younger, like everything was still woods, right?
Yeah.
So we'd go like and explore in the woods,
Yeah.
and say like Lynn or wherever we were playing that game. So it was always fun. Like you'd have your football game, and then you'd get to go like.
Yeah, because a football, exactly, like your football game, but it was really like a 6-hour football event, you know, because we're all playing back to back.
Yeah, so it was always fun.
My brother was like star quarterback, like really good, like Pop Warner player too. So I used to get like ticked off because everybody would be like, "Oh, Matt, like Matty, what are you playing?" I'm like, "Football's stupid. Like I don't play. Screw that." Oh my god. Yeah, I mean, then obviously high school, different story, right? You go after it. Man, what do you think about there's like such a huge fight card coming up this weekend. Maybe like one of the biggest fights I've been looking forward to the past couple months. Colby Covington, Leon Edwards.
Man, like, that's a tough one to pick. I don't want to give a pick, but I'll give like, I don't know. So, you got to give it to Leon, right? He took out Usman. Like, okay, you can say, you know, it was a fluke. He got him with the head kick, whatever. But then he did it again. So, he took out the boogeyman who was beating Covington twice.
Yeah.
But Covington has only lost to him, and he's just, like, so relentless. It's tough to pick against him. Yeah. And how can you pick against Edwards when he took out the guy who's got Kobe's number?
Who took out everybody.
So, yeah. And Leon, I mean, I don't know exactly who he's lost to, but he has losses, right?
I know he lost to Usman in their first fight. So they technically had 3 fights, right? They had 2 fights for the belt, but that was Leon's last loss was to Usman. And then he went on, I think, 10.
Streak.
It was I don't think it's considered a 10-fight streak because he had that weird fight with Bilal Muhammad where there was an accidental eye poke, so it was a no contest. But I think in the UFC, I think his only loss is to Usman.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't like I mean, he got out wrestled, you know. He had a good first round against him, but then he just got smashed up against the cage and couldn't get his footing. But yeah, Leon Edwards, man, that kick was unbelievable. Just like absolutely took him out of nowhere. Speaking of high altitude, right? They're fighting in Utah, so his energy's probably zapped more than anything. High altitude.
I'm sure they went there like early.
Yeah.
I feel like everybody does that now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's tough to pick. I don't know. What's the odds on it?
I gotta look it up. By the way, whatever I pick, again, bet against me.
Either way, I'm taking the underdog.
Yeah.
Because I don't. It doesn't matter.
It's good value,
like,
right?
I just think.
I think Kobe's gonna take it. I want Kobe to take it because he's such an animal at the press conferences. Like, I just want I feel like the more Colby Covington we have in our lives, like the better the UFC is. Yeah, it's always more entertaining. I do love Leon. Leon's a great fighter. I could absolutely see him taking Kobe out. But there's something about like Kobe when he comes out with like the "Make America Great Again" hat. He's got the suit on, no t-shirt underneath, the chains. Like, I love it.
And that's another guy. Like, I've never met Kobe. I don't know him personally, but like, you see his persona on the camera, and like from everybody I've talked to, he's like a sweet guy, like super nice and everything. Like, you would never think that was him, but yeah, either way, man, like that's one of the ones I'm looking forward to watching. Like, I can't wait. Like 5 rounds. Do you think it will go
Pressure.
5 though?
I think it will. I think either one of those guys are gonna have a hard time taking the other guy out. I mean, Kobe, he's just pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And Leon just knows how to like pick his shots. So it's got to be hard, and I don't know, but it's got to be hard to get a takedown with somebody that can hit you with a jab, hit you with a kick, like really in any spot at any time.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
I'm really pumped for the I feel like I'm not gonna say his name right. Shavkat Rakhmonov versus Wonder Boy. Wonder Boy is like one of my favorites. I've been to 2 UFC events. For my birthday one year, my wife got me tickets because her father lives in Vegas. Mm-hmm. So we went to, I think it was like 205 or something. It was when Khabib was supposed to be fighting Tony Ferguson, but Khabib had to go to the hospital because I think his like kidney shut down or something like that during the weight cut. So it was Woodley Wonder Boy 2. And I remember watching it, I was just, I don't know, in awe of just like how like he moved around the ring, just like bouncing around, like I don't know, just something about it. And he's got a great walkout song too, so I'm rooting for Wonder Boy for sure.
Yeah, no, and he's another guy that nicest guy in the world, and it's just he's got like that karate style that like back in the day they'd be like, oh, you're never gonna win with the karate style, and then like he comes along and wrecking everybody with it. Like it's so unconventional to the MMA, the top level UFC guys, but it works for him.
Yeah.
Like,
have you ever watched any of the karate combat stuff on YouTube?
So the only because Bas Rutten commentates.
Yeah, Bas Rutten's the man.
So yeah, like I got a couple films with him, and he's a really nice guy, and yeah, he commentates. So I kind of listen to him. He's so funny and he's hilarious.
He is funny.
But Ross Levin, the champion there.
Maybe I don't know. I don't know the fighters as well. Yeah. I watch the highlights and stuff like that on YouTube. I like I really like how they have that sort of the ring with like the raised kind of apron at the corner. Yeah, like it's cool.
Yeah, it's different too. You know? And you can use it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
I think they stand you up after like 3 or 5 seconds on the ground too. So you can do a little ground and pound, but then they stand you up. So they're exciting fights. They're like good knockouts, and just like the whole. I don't know if it's in an arena or like some sort of warehouse or something like that, but just everything about it like looks really cool.
Yeah, and it is still kind of brutal, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, vicious. Yeah. Absolutely vicious.
But hopefully it takes off for those guys.
Yeah. I think I saw a GSP did some commentating for them too. Mm-hmm. That's a big get. He's another one like
legend. Yeah.
Up there, legend.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, Jamie, we've been talking for a while. We're just about running out of time, but I want to thank you so much for coming in and talking, joining the show. Yeah. You're a legend in your own right, in my mind, for sure.
Thanks.
I was saying this to Joshua, the producer. Like I was a freshman. You were a senior, and like not just me, everyone on our team looked up to you because 1, you're an unbelievable player, but 2, you were just like the nicest guy on the team. Like you remember you 54 or 59 or something like that.
Oh, Freddie, come on.
I forget 53, right? We were next to each other.
40. I was 49, but I was 42 my last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember like sitting like close in the locker room and like no senior has to be nice to a freshman. Like like it doesn't. You don't have to be that. But you were always the man, and you showed everybody in the team just like how hard of a work you are, and that rubbed off on everybody. And like I said, absolute legend. Love watching you fight. Love watching you play football. And just thank you so much for coming in, man. It's a pleasure.
Trey, thanks for having me, and all the success with the podcast. And if you need anything, you let me know if I can post something for you or, whatever you need.
Absolutely, man. All right, well, guys, this has been the Barn Burner Breakdown with Fred Sabelli and Jamie Campbell. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next week. Take care.